King Brahmadatta of Benares was wakened one night from 16 nightmares. Fearing that they may be premonitions, he called upon his royal priests for their advice. The priest concluded that it was a warning of danger, coming either to the kingdom, to the king's life, or to the royal treasury. The king asked if there was any way to avoid the coming danger. Their answer was to offer the grandest animal sacrifice ever seen. Although the king was a kind man, out of fear, he granted the priest permission. The idea of the sacrifice was not for the king's benefit, but for their own. Instead of trying to protect the king, the priests wanted the food and money that came with performing the sacrifice. While the preparations for the sacrifice began, a young pupil of the priest began to wonder how the loss of one life would save the life of another. He wondered how the death of the animals from the four elements would protect the life of the king. When he asked his teacher priest this question, the priest answered that the sacrifice was not for the king, but for the riches they would gain. Distraught, the pupil left the priesthood and began to wander around the kingdom. There he saw a holy man, a bodhisattva, who was visiting Benares to free the people from superstition. The pupil approached the bodhisattva and were asked whether the king of Benares was a kind man. The pupil answered that the king was a nice man, but the king was being misled by his trusted priests. The pupil asked if the bodhisattva could show the true interpretation of the king's nightmare. The bodhisattva agreed. King Brahmadatta then went to the bodhisattva and told him of his first nightmare. The king said his nightmare was of thousands of people coming to see a bullfight. The bulls pretended to fight and then returned from where they had come from. The bodhisattva said that this foreshadowed the fall of good in the kingdom and the rise of evil. Future kings and citizens would become unwholesome. Storms would come, but no rain would fall, leaving the harvest small. Then the king told the bodhisattva of his second nightmare. There was a field of midget trees flowering and then bearing fruit. The bodhisattva interpreted the nightmare to say that there would be a food shortage leading to shortened human lives and young girls bearing children. After hearing this, the king told the bodhisattva of his third nightmare. The nightmare was about of a herd of cows sucking milk from newly born calves. The bodhisattva interpreted this to mean that in the future, the respect children had for their parents would diminish, and the parents would be at the mercy of their children when they were older. After hearing about the third nightmare, the king told the bodhisattva of the fourth one. The fourth one was about strong, full-grown bulls following caravans, pulled by weak calves who were unable to take the caravans to the markets. The bodhisattva interpreted this to mean that in the future, stingy kings would appoint foolish young judges unable to make decisions, and the older, wiser judges would not aid the young judges. Then the king told the bodhisattva of his fifth nightmare. The fifth dream was of a horse with two mouths on his head, eating from both at the same time. The bodhisattva interpreted the dream to say that the greedy judges appointed by the stingy kings would not care for judging rightly, but only for the bribes. The king then told the bodhisattva of the sixth dream. The sixth dream was of a golden plate that the people were encouraging a jackal to urinate into. The bodhisattva interpreted the dream to say that in the future, kings from outside countries would replace experienced ministers with lower-class ones, forcing old nobles to wed their high-class daughters to low-class ministers. After hearing the interpretation of the sixth dream, the king told the bodhisattva of the seventh dream. The seventh dream was of a man making rope and letting it fall on the floor while a female jackal was eating the rope. The man was unaware of what was happening. The bodhisattva interpreted the dream to say that in the future, women would be engrossed in spending all of their husbands' monies to buy luxuries while abandoning their household duties. After hearing the interpretation of the seventh dream, the king told the bodhisattva of the eighth dream. The eighth dream was of a big pot filled with water and little empty pots in front of the palace gates. People with bowls filled the big pot with water rather than and ignored the little pots. The Bodhisattva interpreted the eighth dream to say that the riches of the kingdom would be scarce, and this would force the people to provide the royalty and nobility with the remaining riches of the land. The Bodhisattva then told the king that the king need not worry, for these dangers wouldn't occur in his lifetime. The king then informed the Bodhisattva that the remaining 8 nightmares were even more terrifying, and told the Bodhisattva of the ninth dream. The ninth dream was of a pond that was clean by the shore and muddy in the middle, with 5 lotuses on top and animals of all sizes drinking from it. The Bodhisattva interpreted the nightmare to say that future kings would be interested in bribes rather than for the good of the land. The rulers would put heavy taxes on the people, forcing them to flee to the borderlands and leaving the corrupt in the city. After hearing the interpretation of the ninth dream, the king told the Bodhisattva of his 10th dream. The 10th dream was of unevenly cooked rice in a pot. The Bodhisattva interpreted the 10th dream to say that everyone, no matter their status or profession, they would become unwholesome. The gods, who would also be unwholesome, would have rains occur too much, just right, and too little in some areas of the kingdom. After hearing the interpretation of the 10th dream, the king told the Bodhisattva of the 11th dream. The 11th dream was of the finest sandalwood being traded for spoiled milk. The Bodhisattva interpreted the 11th dream to say that in the future, greedy preachers would lecture to many for the gain of luxuries. After hearing the interpretation of the 11th dream, the king told the Bodhisattva of the 12th dream. The 12th dream was of empty pumpkins sinking in water. The Bodhisattva interpreted the dream to say that future kings would give high-ranking jobs to the lower class rather than the higher class. Therefore, the lower class would be rich and the higher class would be poor. The people would follow the ignorant lower class official rather than the experienced higher class official. After hearing the interpretation of the 12th dream, the king told the Bodhisattva of the 13th dream. The 13th dream was of solid rocks floating on top of the water. The Bodhisattva interpreted the 13th dream to say that the wise words of the experienced nobles would be ignored because of their class. The teaching of the monks would be ignored as well, just as the rocks had floated away on the surface of the water. After hearing the interpretation of the 13th dream, the king told the Bodhisattva of the 14th dream. The 14th dream was of tiny female frogs killing and eating big, long, black snakes. The Bodhisattva interpreted the 14th dream to say that in the future people would be enslaved by their cravings. Men would be under the control of their youngest and prettiest wives. The women would take everything from the men, just as the female frogs had eaten all of the snakes. After hearing the interpretation of the 14th dream, the king told the Bodhisattva of the 15th dream. The 15th dream was of a crow with the 10 bad qualities being served by golden swans, and was seen as kind by all the other birds. The Bodhisattva interpreted the 15th dream to say that future kings, in fear of mutiny by the nobles, would appoint low-class officials to high-class jobs, forcing the nobles to serve the lower class. After the interpretation of the 15th dream, the king told the Bodhisattva of the 16th dream. The 16th dream was of goats eating leopards and all other animals hiding from the goats. The Bodhisattva interpreted the 16th dream to say that in the future, the lower class would gain power while the nobles would have lost power. The lower class would take everything from the nobles and threaten resisting nobles with death. Also, bad monks would hurt good monks, causing good monks to hide in fear. After hearing the interpretation of the 16th dream, the king thanked the Bodhisattva for taking him off a path of unwholesomeness. The Bodhisattva then told the king that their future was destined to happen, and the king couldn't help avoid the coming dangers. Therefore, the sacrifice wouldn't change the coming dangers. The Bodhisattva told the king that he could benefit greatly by giving up 5 unwholesome actions, which were destroying life, taking what is not given, doing wrong in sexual ways, speaking falsely, and losing one's mind due to alcohol. The king gave up these unwholesome actions and lived a long, happy life and was reborn as he deserved. The moral of the story was that a scared man can do much worse than what scared him in the first place. And the low class meaning low care.